Hello, my name is Joseph Delormier, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cloud computing. If you are trying to learn about cloud computing, either to better yourself professionally or personally, and the concept seems a little too overwhelming, this cartoon is meant for you to consider the topic from the cloud's point of view. This cloud is lamenting to his therapist the woes of taking on all of the responsibility that cloud usage has had in the recent years. With an exponential growth in cloud abilities and use, there's little doubt that many clouds feel similarly to this little guy and the stress of being utilized at such a high demand. While it may seem like a behemoth if hearing the term for the first time, we're going to break down this topic so that cloud computing is a bit more digestible. Throughout this video, we are going to discuss what cloud computing actually is and why you may want to consider moving to a cloud computing platform, either for personal use or to advance your career. My aim is to provide you with some broad knowledge so that you can have an overall understanding of what cloud computing is and an informed opinion on why you may want to consider switching. So, let's start at the beginning. What is cloud computing? Cloud computing is a fast-moving new technology that many companies and private users are adopting for a variety of reasons. There are advantages and benefits that cloud computing provides that businesses cannot ignore because they would be left behind by their faster-learning competitors. Defined plainly, cloud computing is a remote virtual pool of on-demand shared resources offering compute, storage, and network services that can be rapidly deployed at scale. I'm going to help break down this definition so that you can understand what these terms mean and their application in the cloud systems. Some existing technology upon which cloud computing was built is virtualization. What is virtualization? Basically, what virtualization allows is for multiple virtual machines, otherwise known as computers, phones, or other devices, to be able to run separate operating systems and applications on one physical server. The physical server has the ability to allow multiple virtual machines to run all at the same time. The shared pool of virtual hardware resources may be accessed by various virtual machines. The virtual machines interpret the hardware on the physical server as they normally would with their own hardware. The benefits of virtualization include reduced capital expenditure, since a company can utilize one physical host to run multiple virtual machines, less hardware is needed to be purchased. In addition, less space and power is required for less hardware owned by a company, leading to lower operational costs. Your company being able to forego housing the hardware itself allows for more space in your work area. Less electrical utility used by your company is a result of cloud usage as well, since power is not required to run hardware that is not present in the office itself. That covers the virtual part of the definition of cloud computing. Let's move on to these next potentially confusing terms: compute, storage, and network. Understanding these terms in the context of the cloud is essential for understanding cloud computing as a whole. Let's start with compute. The compute objects of cloud computing allow the brains of the technology to process the workload that you are inputting, including what's required to process and run requests from applications and services. This service compares to the traditional CPU and RAM resources that you may find on typical servers. Storage. Storage resources on the cloud allow you to save and access your data across a shared environment. An object that allows you to save information in the cloud is known as a storage resource. When discussing traditional ways of storage, one need only look at server hard disks or network-attached storage to see similarities. Network resources. Network resources allow the right and left side of the brain, otherwise known as compute and storage, to talk to each other. This includes making avenues for information traffic, as well as creating firewalls to allow or deny certain requests. Now that we've looked back and dissected the main parts of the cloud computing definition, I hope that you have a basic grasp on what this service is and how it works. Once again, cloud computing is a remote virtual pool of on-demand shared resources offering compute, storage, and network services that can be rapidly deployed at scale. We are going to move on to some common reasons that cloud computing is being turned to by corporations and organizations. Some companies are choosing to take the time and resources to move parts of their services to the cloud, while other companies are making a total change by putting all of their infrastructure within a cloud system. What is the benefit of taking this time and resources? Traffic bursting. For certain businesses that experience high traffic of customer usage during seasonal circumstances, there's going to be a higher loads of impact on your server at certain times of the year as compared to others. Maybe the retail business that you run gets especially hit hard during the Christmas season, with demand increasing on your e-commerce infrastructure. With the classic data center environment, all of the services that take up space, money, power, and personnel for calling is not effective for scaling. These seasonal jumps may additionally tack on extra expenses for obtaining, maintaining, and operating the hardware for a short period of the year. For these reasons, companies are turning to cloud computing as a way of handling high traffic. The public cloud can be used to scale a network in order to manage additional traffic over a particular time of the year. When traffic to your company has reduced, your cloud utilities can be ended in order to avoid additional costs from the service. The cloud only uses money when you're using it. Whoa, 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 this thing costs money? How much money? Yes, cloud providers determine price for users by figuring out the expenses to maintaining the network. This cost is calculated by figuring out costs for network hardware, network infrastructure maintenance, and labor. These costs that the users pay to keep the network up and running are necessary for the tools that you use. Network hardware costs include the physical hardware that a provider purchases. Network infrastructure maintenance costs include security tools such as firewalls, LAN switching, patch panels, load balancers, routing, and uplinks. All of the infrastructure that keeps the network running smoothly. If some of these terms are unfamiliar to you, you can be sure that if you've ever used a cloud computing service, you have used these network infrastructure maintenance services. Finally, if you're paying for the labor that it costs for the staff, you are paying for the labor that it costs for the staff to maintain, manage, monitor, and troubleshoot cloud computing infrastructure. There is usually a 24/7 staff that makes sure that your connection is not interrupted, as well as several backup plans if something goes awry with the system. As an organization that plans on using cloud computing, you are going to have different needs for CPU or virtual RAM than other organizations. For those who don't know, CPU stands for the Central Processing Unit, which is where data manipulation takes place. The results of the manipulation of data are usually stored in the computer memory. Providers determine the cost of CPU for a certain organization by calculating the respective company's cost per gigabyte of virtual RAM, which includes the hardware operation and hardware acquisition. The hardware operation costs could come from usage-based subscription costs and licensing, depending on the virtual operating system that you use. The hardware acquisition cost tells your provider how much it costs to acquire the hardware for each gigabyte of virtual RAM that you use. The storage cost per gigabyte of virtual disk calculates how much it would cost to operate your storage hardware and acquire new hardware for your storage needs. Fortunately, customers can choose the package that fits them best for their organization and can receive more or fewer resources as needed. When comparing the cloud costs of Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, the overall most expensive way to buy cloud-based virtual services is to pay on demand. Customers wishing to save money should plan and commit to a long-term contract. Many providers include discounts in exchange for 1 year or 3 years commitments to their services. The higher the commitment, the more money saved. With the costs associated with cloud computing, the services provided must be up to par. When I first began learning about cloud computing, my biggest interest was the security. Is storing all of your data in a cloud that exists somewhere in the universe a viable way to keep your information secure? Cloud computing security provides many of the same functionalities as traditional IT security. Protecting information from theft, data leakage, and deletion are vital for your organization. Your data is secured in data centers that third-party organizations upkeep and maintain. Many cloud providers offer independent third-party audit reports to make sure that their internal process exists and stay effective in managing security in the facilities where your data is stored. For these storage centers, strict regulatory standards are kept for employees and processes. Top-of-the-line technical security tools and extra security programs are implemented. Confidentiality of customer data is demanded, and denial of service attacks, as well as hacking, is highly mitigated against. The individuals that run these data centers have more education and experience in the field than anybody else, including access to all of the new security information before it is released. Their job is to keep your data safe. The physical location of your data matters less than the means of access. With the rapidly expanding customer base that cloud computing is taking on, as well as the fast-moving improvements in storage and manipulation of data, it is easy to see that cloud computing is going to be a large part of the future. The scalability, security, and lower overall costs are highly attractive to organizations that wish to modernize and increase efficiency. I hope that you learned a thing or two about cloud computing today, and that this presentation provided a little to your overall impression of cloud services.